It is September 1st, 2024, 11:10 a.m. Another quick one. I've been kinda into listening to musical numbers, and then what triggered that was I watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show. A pretty decent movie. But then that got me kind of back into musical because I have like a background of, well, I say background, but this is like elementary, middle school. I used to be in like theater and stuff. Um, but then now I've been thinking about all this. One thing I noticed with one thing I noticed is there's some weird change in modern musical in a featured film, um, compared to, well, this is anecdotal comparison, not really statistical, but I've been thinking about two films, Rocky Horror Show and Sweeney Todd, compared to La La Land and A Star Is Born. I think La La Land, Star Is Born, they're also considered musical, but they're very distinct from Sweeney Todd and the Rocky Horror Show. That for a moment, just now while I was like just thinking about whatever, I was thinking, wait, is La La Land and A Star Is Born really a musical? Actually, wait. I know La La Land is, but let me double check with A Star Is Born. A Star Is Born genre. Yeah, musical romantic drama. Yeah. So I think the difference really is La La Land and Stars Born seems less musically. It's created for a film, for a screen. Whereas Rocky Horror and Sweeney Todd, you can tell it's originally created for a stage, I think. Rocky Horror is created for a stage. Or at least, I'm not sure 100% if it was the stage first or the screen first. But I know the film is at least applicable to the stage as well. And the difference lies in, at least what I see is, the difference is in how the story progresses and the function of the musical numbers, or in what sort of context the musical numbers are played in. Well, so one thing I didn't. Right now, I'm having second thoughts, but one thing I didn't really like about Sweeney Todd film, and also kind of applies to Rocky Horror, is that the story progression is weird. It relies so much on the musical numbers being good. The story relies on the quality of the music to reach like plot catharsis, rather than having sort of logic and very well written story progression, I would say. Not that Sweeney Todd or Rocky Horror is a bad film by any means. I think Sweeney Todd, the more I think about it, there's so many poetic ironies. It's really interesting. It's very tragic and beautiful. It's very Shakespearean, I feel, in a way. But that being said, I think a lot of times, for example, Sweeney Todd, one thing that really wrinkled my brain, is they needed money to, they need money. Wait, did they need money? Well, they're definitely not like financially wealthy, right? but they wanted to make. Yeah, I think they needed money. They needed stuff to sell, to get more people to buy more pies. So that would give them wealth. But to do that, um, Sweeney Todd created this whole contraption. Uh, I don't think this is actually really more of the fault in the musical, but more in the film itself, because it's very I forgot the director's name. Um, who's the director? Um, Damn it. Director. Tim Burton. Tim Burton. Tim Burton has that sort of steampunk aesthetic, and it's like this whole complex mechanism. And the first thing is, how the hell does he have the money to do that? I think that's also a very modern audience mindset in watching a film as well. But I think that's also, I would consider like a Marvel effect of pulling down fantasy into realism way too much. I actually kind of like it, but there is a paradigm shift, I feel, in the whole film industry as a whole because of it. But anyways, that's not what I want to talk about. What I wanted to talk about was, what's kind of related. What I wanted to talk about was, it takes away immersion because it lacks logic, or it doesn't seem realistic in a way. It's not grounded enough in realism. And to me, that took away Sweeney Todd. That took away my enjoyment in Sweeney Todd. I still enjoyed it, but not as much, I would say, because of that. With Rocky Horror, what I felt was just it was really chaotic, I guess, but that's also based on, because it's supposed to be chaotic. It's less to do with it being a musical, I think. But at a certain point, they just go fuck it with the plot and just perform on stage, um, in a film. I think that's kind of funny, but it sort of works because it's also a musical, I would say. But it just kind of breaks the fourth wall in a way that not many films should. That's a dangerous phrasing, but because it's a musical, I don't know if it's about the bar being low. I don't think it's that. It's just because it's just a completely different genre. You're kind of fine with it. Because also it's the performance and the music that really gets the film going, I would say. Like the Time Warp, it doesn't even make sense, but it's an amazing song. And I guess it's not supposed to make sense. Yeah. And then the whole thing about time travel, there was no time travel. And it just jumps to the stage. And it's crazy stuff. But it kind of works. But then the whole point is like, a lot of the elements of the past feature film musicals don't make sense and rely a lot on musical numbers. Now we look at the more modern, more contemporary I'll keep my vocabulary, no, my wording as word choice as modern. But the modern films, modern musical films, La La Land and A Star Is Born, a lot of the musical numbers are also actual performances. They're on stage. Which okay, Rocky Horror did it as well. But this Rocky Horror's like stage performance didn't make any sense. It just cut to that. There were technically no audience. There was no. I don't think there was any build up to, okay, we're just gonna move into a stage. And also, it's clearly a reference to the actual, you know, the Rocky Horror, theater and performance. So I think that's a little different from what I'm about to talk about, which is in La La Land and A Star is Born. It's a story about singers, right? Performers, and some of their musical numbers are literally their own character song that they perform on stage to an audience because it's their career. So there's a realism, right? It makes sense that they're performing, they're making music, because that's what's happening in that actual real world in that film. Yeah. And then another thing you notice is they don't rely much on music for catharsis in their plot or story progression in general. It's not reliant on that. At La La Land, what they do is, in certain emotional situations, it's exaggerated, and that exaggeration is displayed as a musical number, like in romantic situations, and when Sebastian's, kind of, I would say, kind of ruminating about Mia. I think it was Mia, right? Character. Emma Stone. Emma Stone? No, Emma. Fuck, I forgot her name. The great actress. Can't believe I forgot her name. Was it Emma Stone? Because there's 3 Emmas. I'm getting sidetracked. But it's like a lot of the musical numbers are either they're actually performing with it makes logical sense. It's an exaggeration of a situation that doesn't really, let the film depend on the musical to move the progress, move the story. And it's also like when it's more subjective, when there's like a scene that's very subjective of the character, when it goes into inner workings of the character, the musicals are again kind of, mystifies subjectivity in a way, mystifies the mind, and make it fantastical like a musical instead of a fucking monologue exposition or something. And all of that, it makes sense, right? Like that inside the mind subjectivity, it's a musical, it's exaggerated, or romantic situations exaggerated with a musical. And it's there to enrich the story, but to not really be part of this thing that it does push the story, but it's not what the film relies on to push the story, if that makes sense. There's clearly an underlying plot that's written immaculately, intricately. Whereas, look at Sweeney Todd. Literally, or it's also that there's musical number after musical number. That's the other thing too. But Sweeney Todd, their story progresses, which is displayed almost like an exposition, displayed as a musical number. Even if they show subjectivity through the musical. It's like the story's progressing through the music. Rocky Horror, same thing. The next scene is a musical. And story relies on that. And what I want to get here is more to do with what I see how musical is created in a featured film in modern times, which is that the pattern I see from comparing these is it's focused more on realism. It's trying to ground the film to make it sense, make it more logical. And it works. I think as a modern audience, I actually kind of prefer La La Land. Maybe even Star is Born compared to Sweeney Todd, Rocky Horror. Of course, it's not 100%. I think Rocky Horror has that charm that it's hard to deny. I think A Star is Born is a little basic, so then Rocky Horror is gonna be probably above that. But that's my personal opinion. But also, as someone of a modern audience, I think there's that appeal that I see more in Star is Born and La La Land because of that realism. There's a groundedness. But then, what that does is it makes it seem less like a musical. It takes away from that musical. Yes, which it kind of makes sense. I think for the issue with film is that what? Let me search up. I always forget. Rinjokan. A sense of realism. Immersion. Immersion. That's the word I was thinking. I think film is one of the most powerful medium for immersion, I would say. It's so immersive. I think as an audience we have this expectation of wanting realism because that supports the immersion. If it's lacking immersion, it's lacking realism, it's gonna break immersion. So that immersion created by the film is destroyed, or the immersion we expect from the film is destroyed because film is already immersive, very immersive. Whereas a theater on a stage, it's less immersive. I think there are sort of I think theater has the level of self-awareness that it's not as immersive. That could be a wrong opinion because I haven't watched that many. I haven't really been on that many stages. And I was a kid when I was on the stage. But like compared to film, I feel like there is the sense that these guys are performers. There's an audience watching them live. I think it's that liveness as well that breaks the immersion. In a film, the actor and the audience do not have a live interaction. But there's also other elements, like literally just the physical elements of a film versus a stage. I think biologically, just this light flashing, this large light screen flashing into your eyes, stereos around you. With that, you kind of get sucked in. In theater, it's not a light, it's literal actors, and it's props. There's no special effects or like digital special effects. You might be able to see a string, as the actors fly or come down from the stage. There's a curtain that falls. when scenes change or all that. Maybe there's a break in between. So there's a lot of elements that, but of course, immersion is not the metric to say which medium is better or not. It's just that it's just two different mediums. But then when you impose a musical into a film, we would use that metric to say if this musical film is good or bad, I think. As an audience. As a general audience. I think the more you think about this, you realize maybe that metric shouldn't be always applied. But then I think this phenomenon is very clear because that's the films you see, musical films you see today, which are more grounded in reality. And this is, I guess, an observation. I don't know if it's really what I'm talking about here is even a criticism or critical monologue, or it could be a dialogue, but that's what I have to say. I think maybe there are films out there, musical films out there, but I want to kind of say it shouldn't, that lacking groundedness in the older musical films should go away. They should bring it back. But I don't want them to, make the modern, more grounded musical films obsolete. They're not mutually exclusive, I think. That's just what I thought. Yeah. That's it. So, to summarize, old musical feature films are more musical-like and less grounded in logic and reality, whereas modern musical feature films are more grounded in logic and reality, which, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I guess that's my point, which I guess not really profound. If I summarize it like that, I feel like it, to an extent, a lot of people are aware of it, but something I thought today. And now I'm gonna go grocery shopping.